So, and this was a wonderful tool that you introduced everyone to in that meeting. And I said, wow, this is great. I hope we can have a chance to introduce it to some of our group members, maybe of Higher Ground Initiative, invite others, and then we can do one of these sessions with either, with that group or a Temple group or something. So we'll move forward, and I'm glad you're joining us this evening. And oh, good, you've got the screen sharing thing going, and you're already good. So good, thank you.
So Michael and I, there are 4 of us who have been sort of organizing this Blue Wave Broward, and we base it on a group in St. Johns County who turned their county from conservative to progressive. And they had a very specific set of guidelines that they used. And the main one was they analyzed the voters. And here's, so this yep, it's all right. So like this says, we're a group of volunteers committed to turning out as many progressive voters as possible in November. And to do that, we are asking the unreliable voters to vote by mail, because vote by mail has the highest voting rate. So obviously when we vote, we win. And we're here asking you to join us in this effort.
Do you want to maybe just, let's talk about what are unreliable voters?
Yeah. We'll start with this, but then we're going to go to what you were talking about, Michael, is who you want to reach. But let's talk about this for a second. So the types of voters that we're targeting are the warm voters, the cold voters, and the new voters. And I'll explain that. We're not targeting the hot. The hot are people who vote every single time. They're out there in every election. We're not contacting them because we're not looking to have a candidate win. We're looking to get as many people out as possible. So they're already coming out. We don't need to contact them. The warm voters are the people who voted once in the last 2 elections, so they're unreliable. The cold voters didn't vote in either election. And then, of course, the new voters have never voted before. This is their first time. So the 3 groups that we're interested in, and we'll give you more statistics later, but in Broward, 60% of the registered voters are unreliable. And that means they fall in one of these categories here, these 3. So that's really a quite stunning statistic. And Michael, do you want to ask them about who they might be interested within that category?
Right. Well, so I guess just to sort of put this in a context, the approach that the Blue Wave Coalition has been taking around different counties in Florida, and what they've been doing successfully in Miami, is to sort of get a coalition of a lot of different organizations together, and then they just adopt a precinct, right? I'm going to take this precinct, you take that one, I'll take the other one. Now the organizations are not overlapping with each other, and everybody kind of goes through a series of steps to engage these unreliable voters. The conversation that we had with Lori and that I wanted to just share with you is, it can be a precinct, absolutely, and most of you are local. But it doesn't have to be. Maybe there's some other groups that you feel like you could have good outreach to. And sort of apart from this, maybe within your own organization and your own, synagogues, maybe you want to have a good vote by mail engagement campaign so that you're sure that everybody that you can touch directly is already prepared to vote by mail. But the thrust of this is to say, how many of these people who might not otherwise vote can we get signed up to vote by mail? Because we know when they sign up to vote by mail, a ballot shows up at their house, they're much more likely to vote. So that's sort of a long conversation to say, we are working with maybe groups that want to target Black voters who are unreliable. We're maybe working with groups who want to target Hispanic voters in certain areas, that are unreliable. So I guess what we'd want to just present to you is think about kind of what's your reach and how you feel like you would want to focus your efforts. How's that?
Yeah, and I will quiz, maybe if Stephanie and George have a minute or two after the presentation, we can do a little thinking about, whether we have a specific precinct, maybe, around the temple or something that we would want to target if somebody else hasn't already taken that, or if there's another idea you might have in mind. So we'll do some little
Okay.
talking about that afterwards.
Okay, right. So we'll give you a
The
sense.
question, is this just targeting Democratic voters or all voters?
Good
I mean,
question.
quite
The voters
frankly,
that
I'm not interested in registering Republicans.
Right.
Right. It's
So-
targeting the voters that we expect are progressives.
Okay, great.
So it will,
Yeah,
you'll,
very whatever.
And you can tell from the voter rolls.
yes, you can
Sure.
see, it'll say Democrat, it'll say D for Democrat, it'll have R for Republican, and it'll have NPA for nonpartisan.
No,
What is-
independent.
No party affiliation.
No,
Right.
no party affiliation, thank you, yeah. So
Right.
it'll identify the voters, and then you all contact who you want to contact. We're the people funding us are a 501c3, so we can't talk about parties or candidates, but we can say progressive and conservative. So you, you can read between the lines. Let me put
You
it
got
that
it.
Great, thanks.
You'll be calling the people you want to call, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
So these were the numbers, and these numbers, I can show them to you in a lot of details, but the top line of that is this: almost 60% of the voters in Broward County don't always vote, right? Almost 40% of them, 37% of them didn't vote in the last 2 elections.
Hmm.
Wow.
Right. And another 22% of them voted once out of the last 2 elections. Let me just remind you that Bill Nelson lost the Senate by 12,500 votes, right? There's 1,200,000 registered voters in Broward County. 60% of them don't vote. We don't have to get very many of them to vote to change the margin that beat Bill Nelson. We don't have to get very many of them to vote to change the margin that beat Andrew Gillum. So there's a lot of Democratic votes or progressive votes in Broward County, but nobody has asked them to vote lately. And that's kind of the premise here. And just to prove the numbers, these cold voters turn out 10%. I mean, technically they turn out 0% of the time, right? They'll vote about 60% of the time once they get signed up to vote by mail.
Yeah, that's
Warm voters will vote half the time, right? Will vote about 3/4 of the time, almost 80% of the time when they vote by mail. And new voters will vote about twice as frequently if they sign up to vote.
yeah. Those stats, I know. I saw Lori showed that in the first present. I mean, those are mind-boggling.
Yep. And I think the national number is like that. People will say to you nationally, oh, so many voters who don't vote, right? But when you start looking at it, block by block and, neighborhood by neighborhood, you realize there's a lot of votes there that we need. So there you go.
So, it's pretty astounding and it's very exciting at the same time, because we're finding, especially in Florida, that people are registering to vote by mail. They really, they've connected to it. I think in Broward County, for example, and I think this has happened in a few counties. I know Miami didn't do the exact same thing, but something similar is that they have sent out a vote by mail request form that is postage paid to every voter who is not registered to vote by mail already. So all they have to do is fill it out and send it in, or they can just go on the website, but they have the information right there. So it's great for us, makes the calling so much easier, because you can say, did you receive your, vote by mail registration card? And then you can talk to them about how easy it is to register and the ways in which they can do it. And you can walk them through it to make sure they do it. So it's much easier. So here, what can we do?
It is also good that we no longer call it absentee ballots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I got an absentee ballot a decade ago in Miami when I just couldn't be there for an election. And so the ballots kept coming election after election. And I kept saying, oh, poo. And I would hand carry them down to the precinct, give them back to the election workers, and vote standing up at one of the little booths. I got up here, well, okay, vote by mail. I didn't feel the same sense of patriotic stigma attached to it.
Oh, isn't that
So,
interesting?
yeah, so my daughter and I put our heads together. We decided who we were going to vote for. She carried it down to the post office. And when the nice lady behind the postal counter saw her coming, she interrupted the other customers in line and invited her up, took the material, put it in a basket that was designated just for that, and said, okay, now you can go back and stand in line.
Oh my gosh.
It was just as smooth as silk,
Wow.
and everything was super efficient and super voter friendly. And if you get anybody who says, well, I don't want to do that, I don't like to vote absentee, just tell them my story.
I will.
FAQs there.
And
We've had some stubborn people, but we do have you'll see, we have a myths and facts about vote by mail, because a lot of people have a lot of, there it is. Yeah. So there's a lot of myths about it, that it's less secure, that you can't vote in person if you have a vote by mail ballot, that you can't trust the post office, the signature issue. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of that is, really myths. And there are some small truths, but the major thing is that it's so overwhelming that people actually vote with the vote by mail ballot compared to walking into the poll. So, and that of course is the stunning statistic that we have to just keep in mind, that whatever people are feeling or a problem, it's not nearly as much as if, the barrier that it is to actually have to get up and go to the polls, believe it or not.
And are we going to have these cheat sheets in front of us as we're talking to people on the phone?
Yes, you will. You're
Good.
going to get everything that we're going to show you here. We will email to you. So you'll
Oh,
have
goody.
it.
Right.
You'll have
And
everything.
it is important to learn how to talk to people about vote by mail, because I'm sure a lot of different people have a lot of different ideas about
Issues,
vote by mail.
concerns.
So, right. Legitimate, they've heard things, all of the above, right? So it's important to kind of get comfortable with what's real and what isn't real. And, why this year, maybe more than ever, it's important to at least have vote by mail as an option, right? So you can get your vote by mail ballot. And if you still want to go to the polls on the day of the election, you have the ability
And get
do
exposed
that.
to COVID-19. Yeah,
But
right.
look, you have the safety net here now because you got your ballot in the mail. So this is a conversation, and you'll talk to each other about it some and sort of get comfortable with it, sort of the kinds of
so
concerns people raise. Yeah.
I'm going to just do a quick aside. You may have seen Joan Racklin just joined us a little bit a couple minutes ago, and so good that she did. Thank you, Joan, for good to hear you here. There you are, and
Hi, Joan. Joan and I grew up together in Hollywood. Hi, how are you?
Oh, there she is.
So nice to see you. I know.
I'm
Virtual hug.
actually I'm on a Zoom call with my temple, but I really wanted to see
Oh my-
Lori, and I hope to get a private tutorial on vote by mail, because
Of
I can only
course.
stay on for 10 minutes.
Of
Sorry.
course. And my partner in crime here is Michael Racklin. You guys have the same last name, but I don't think you're related.
Maybe back at Mount Sinai or something.
I'm sure all the Racklins are related somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere back there.
Joan, just for your information, and then we're gonna, we'll go back in a second here. We're gonna record this in case you or anyone else wants to see this. I'm gonna, we'll have this available in full. So
Thank you,
can-
Scott. I'm very torn, but this is our TCON Central meeting and I have to present. So Scott, before we go, I'm just gonna say you look like a wayfaring sea captain. And it's a very, very becoming look.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for saying hello, Joan. I appreciate
Lori,
it. Nice to
so
see
great
you.
to be back in touch.
Yeah, very
So
sweet.
great.
Very
To be
sweet.
continued.
Awesome.
Okay, in a few more minutes, I'm going to mute.
Okay, so Michael, do you want to go back to where we were?
Oh, wait, wait, wait. Okay, so what can we do? Oh,
What
we
can
want
we
to
do? What can we do? So we adopt a precinct, and like Michael was saying, we can decide to do things like we want to, if you want to speak to a specific age group, or you want to speak to women and not men, or men and not women, or you want to speak to somebody who lives in a region. You guys have the choice of, we can segment the list any way that you want. So be thinking
And
about
we have
that.
the Broward list, and if they want to, I mean, we have Broward precincts too, if they want
We
to.
have Broward precincts available. You know what? I'm going to just go back for a second and say, besides the way that we talked about how we segmented the list, we also looked at we chose 15 different counties to work on in the state that had the highest number of possibilities of, number one, being progressive, and number two, they were people who didn't vote regularly there. So we segmented those 15 precincts, and within those those 15 counties, and within those counties, we segmented precincts that were at the top, the highest level within those counties of, people who were registered but didn't vote regularly and had a propensity for voting progressive. So those are the people that you're going to be calling. You adopt your precinct or a specific section for a phone bank. We schedule a virtual phone bank date and time so that you have a group that you work with. So for example, if you belong to any particular group, in this case, there might be Temples, who you have other friends who are interested in doing this. You set a time and date, and we give you the tools for all that.
If you
We'll
need them.
provide you with a Zoom link. We'll provide you with a startup meeting sign up, which we call Sign Up Genius. We provide you with the links. We provide you with this PowerPoint that we're doing right now with you. We're going to give you that as well. And we provide you with training. We also, if you have questions or concerns, we're available most anytime to answer your questions. So we help you build you build your event with your people, with the people that you know, and invite them to join you. And then we can do a virtual phone bank training, or we can train some people in your group to be able to do the training. It's pretty direct and pretty simple. And then you set up a phone bank, and you have to not only set up the phone bank, and people can do it on their own as well, but it's kind of fun to do it together, even though it's virtual. We'll explain that. But you have to have a party at the end. It's really important to party. And so we'll talk about that in a second.
Right,
So
so-
this is the same thing, the tools. We have the precinct data. We have the Sign Up Genius, the link to the virtual phone bank, Zoom link, and we're a support team for you. So this is what we were doing when we were canvassing, which is hanging these on people's doors or knocking, and if they weren't there, we'd hang them on the door, which is the one on the left is the postcard that you can use to sign up to vote by mail. And then there's the myths and facts about voting by mail.
Which we have a lot of these printed cards if you wanted to distribute some of them at the,
We do. We have quite a bit of them.
right. They can still be used.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. I actually have a table out front of my house that I have these, there's a lot of traffic that goes by, and so walking traffic actually. So I have a whole bunch of them out there for people to pick up and use if they want. So others are welcome to do that.
So we talked about vote by mail. So yeah.
You go ahead with this part.
Yeah, and just to sort of be simple about it, this is the list of target precincts that we established in Broward County. At the top of this page, and the thing that's interesting, more interesting than anything, is when we did this, which was a while ago, there were 1,100,000 and whatever, 1,200,000 registered voters in Broward County. We figured if we could turn out an extra 2% of those voters, that's 25,000. Oops, that's 25,000 more voters, right? So it's not like this job is overwhelming. It really is just a matter of inches, but there's a lot of votes out there for us to get. So anyway, this is a target list, maybe a little bit out of date, but basically we sort of picked the precincts that had the most quantity of unreliable voters in them, and then it's alphabetical by the name of the community. Oops, sorry, what happened? Oh, broke my presentation.
And that's just Broward County.
Yeah, we got more.
Oh, we've got lots.
So we can pick it, we'll give you a little certificate of adoption,
Yep.
and you'll be good to go. So maybe pause a minute, see what you're thinking. We have some step-by-step how to do a phone bank training that we can share with you now, but is this a good time to pause and just check in and see what you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask these guys in a second about their thoughts, because they're, you know, I saw Hollywood was pretty full of the 4 precincts that you had, 4 or 5 in Hollywood. Those are already taken at this point. But there are some other places that, you know, we could maybe take. Oh, there's June still there. Okay.
Pembroke
You know,
Pine, I think, is open.
yeah,
That's where
Pembroke Pines. I like Miramar because I used to do a lot of community garden
Miramar,
stuff
yeah.
there. I
A
saw
lot,
that was a lot open. So there's certainly a lot of, you know, opportunities there. I just want
How
to
many
check.
precincts are in Broward County?
I
More
think
than
there,
there are on that list.
yeah. I think there's 500 or 700. I can't remember at the
Oh,
moment.
wow.
But there's a lot
Yeah.
of precincts.
Right.
Yeah, we're a big county.
You have Alachua. Is that one of your
Yeah,
things? I was just thinking about
um,
Ellen Siegel. Okay, yeah, that'll be good. I'll be in touch with her then.
Is Alachua one of our 15? I think it is. Yes. It,
Yeah.
Alachua is
Yeah.
Gainesville.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I know that there's another Blue Wave Coalition that's in Alachua that's very active
Ah,
Okay.
there as well. So
You can get with them too.
yeah,
I'm a
Yeah.
little confused about how we get started. So what do we do?
sure. Well, we're gonna do that next. We're gonna go.
Before we get there, and I know Joan, maybe she's in and or out here, but I wonder if you know offhand if is there one in the Boston area, or maybe we should just encourage Joan to join us and call in Florida or something.
Yeah, we want to focus on
Well,
Florida.
number one, our Lucan Beach State, but there's a lot. It's just there's so much going on here, and I'm working with Together 2020, Swing Left, and Force Multiplier, and we're all working on voting, and so I would. You know, it depends on whether you need extra hands or hands on the keyboard or help, but I'd like to help. I still have a lot of ties in the Boca Boynton area and certainly a few in Hollywood. So I think I'll listen or watch the archive version and would love to, again, have a little one-on-one time with Lori, but I don't know if carpetbaggers are wanted or needed, so I'm going to listen to all of you.
Definitely
Yes.
bring it. Carpetbagger's a misnomer.
Okay, right.
Florida needs all the reinforcements we can get.
That's right.
Well, then count me in. And I do have to go now to my other meeting, but count me in.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
I worked on the felons' right to vote
Oh, awesome.
through the RAC, the Reform Action Committee, and would love to help you and would especially love to be doing anything for and with Lori, however, virtually. So
Thank you. Thank you.
and thank you,
Awesome.
Scott, and nice to meet you, Michelle, and
Nice to meet you.
McKill. Sorry.
All right.
Thanks,
well.
Joan.
Bye. Take care. Bye, Scott.
So we're gonna go through the training for what you do for a phone bank. I think that's what you're referring to, Stephanie, right?
Yes.
Right.
Is there any other questions before we get going on that? We're good? Okay.
So that'll be a no. Share. There it goes. How come it won't go? There it goes.
So we're going to talk about registering, logging in, the whole thing.
So yeah, I guess the first step is we'll send you a link, and that link will be a unique URL that goes to your specific phone bank. So I'm going to be phone banking into such and such a location in Miramar. You're going to get your own specific link. So we'll send you that link, and then you'll start from here.
And as many people as you want can work off the same link. You will never, you won't overlap people. It sorts it out for individuals, so you don't have to worry about that.
So the first time you come, there's a one-time registration. You click that little button, you go on another, you'll see the other page, and you just provide some basic information, your name and an email address, which is what will be your login. I think the zip code, a phone number, and your address is nice to have, but optional. But we would like a phone number so we can be in touch with your people, and an email which you'll use to log in. Okay, one time I went in, I registered, and now I can actually log in. So your password will have a unique, your phone bank will have a unique password. This may not be it, but you'll go click on the link. Here I am back again. This time I can log in, right? So you'll get your first call. And basically it looks like this. So up here on the left, you'll see the number that you're going to call. You're going to call this with your phone while you're looking at this, probably on your laptop or your tablet. So it's sort of a 2-device effort. Here's the phone number. Here's your target person, Laura. Here's somebody else that also lives in the household, not necessarily your target, but we'll give you the names of everybody who's in the household, just so you know. Their address, their district information, various ones. If we know anything about them, it might show up over there. So here I am, and I can start my call. If I can't reach you, I'll click out, oh, I couldn't get him. If you have a voicemail on your phone, we will train you to leave a message because you want to let the people know that you were trying to reach them. Otherwise, we're stepping through the script. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm volunteering today to help turn out voters. Do you intend to vote this year? Yes, I do. Do you know that voting by mail is safe and reliable? And so here you have a chance to talk to these people about how to sign up to vote by mail. The script is probably a little different now because people have the postcards sent out, but hi, will you vote by mail? Yes, I will. Okay, good. If you want, I can help you sign up right now, and you can walk them through the steps. Yes, no. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't ask people to volunteer. So yes, would you be willing to do some work with us going forward? Will you help us make some other calls? And there's a little button here where you can take in some other information, like they'll give you their cell number, or they'll give you a different email address, or whatever you want to say. Thank you very much. Thank you for voting. Long live democracy. Your call is over.
So you can go back 1 second there.
Sure.
Because if you've made a mistake, you can go back and forth. You can go
right, clear.
You can clear your errors if you feel like you did or you forgot one. You can go back, but you can only do it while you're in that voter's information body of information. Once you've gone to the next one, it's already recorded.
Yeah, once you save.
So where it says save data, next call. So you're calling on your own phone and you're entering the data in the computer. It's pretty direct. It's pretty simple.
I guess those are paper phone lists. We won't talk about those. There you go. That's you.
When you do it with them, you just get them to dial the number to ask for a ballot?
So that's a good question.
Or you can take them to the website where they can submit it on the website.
Can you go back to that for a second, Michael? I can help you.
So, for example, if there's a couple of ways to do this with people, but one would be, let me text this link to you right now, browardsoe.org, right? Then they can click on it while you're talking to them and step through. There's about 3 buttons they have to hit to sign up to vote by mail. That's one option. Send them the phone number. They can call in, but that's only during business hours. And the third option, obviously, is that postcard that maybe they didn't throw away that they got in the mail.
We actually called the number and never got it.
Oh, really? Yes,
The
that
woman was
happened.
very nice on the phone. She was really sweet.
That happened to me a few times. In fact, the last election, I think it was the last election, that I had to call 2 or 3 times until I finally got it. I think they're getting more adept at doing the vote by mail thing because it's so huge now. Everybody's doing it.
You know, if you, speaking of that, if you go on that browardsoe.org yourself,
Yes.
try to sign up to vote by mail. It'll tell you if it thinks you're already signed up. You'll be able to
That's
see.
great to know. But
Yeah.
maybe you should tell people also to check, make sure they get it.
Right, right. And that's the other thing, which I would encourage people to do themselves in advance, is go on that website and see what's available there. So, for instance, you can go there when the time is right, and it'll tell you that your ballot has been mailed to you, right? You can go there at a certain point after you've sent your ballot back, and it will tell you that your ballot was received. I don't think it tells you that your ballot was counted until after the election. But you can sort of see that they acknowledge at least the major steps, right, around the voting process.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so it's good for, I mean, again, people are nervous. How do I know if they got my ballot? How do I know if they mailed it to me, right? Those kinds of things. Anyway.
So what
Yes.
we'll send you, clearly when you're in the phone bank, you can see the questions, you can list them individually and go to the next question, or you can see them all at once. But I'm also going to mail you a hard copy of it. So you'll have a hard copy of that, and you'll also have a hard copy of to leave a message, because we really do want you to leave messages on people's phones. I know that sometimes people don't listen to them, but we prefer to leave a message so that they know that they've been contacted, that they jog their memory about, oh yes, I want to vote by mail, or even the fact that we're asking them to vote by mail might be important. So I'm going to send you all of that as well.
Lori, how many people, you said it usually takes about 1 to 2 hours. How many people in a phone bank to get it to take 1 to 2 hours? How many people would you need?
Well, different, everybody's a little bit different, and it depends if you get a talkative group or not, but I don't know how many, some people can dial, I don't know, and leave messages for 50 people, and some can only do like 20 or 30. It just depends.
Maybe I should ask how many people about in a precinct will you be calling? So I can.
Right.
Go
think
ahead.
I'm going to say the other part of that answer is there's a lot of numbers to call. So it's really, think about having a series of phone banks so that over a period of time you can start to kind of grind through all these people. But we can give you a list as big or as small as you think you can digest, right? But
yeah.
if you have
Some
50
people,
volunteers, you want a bigger list than if you have 6, right?
yeah. Some people like to get a large group together so that they go through the whole precinct in, a couple hours. You really don't want to do calling for more than a couple hours. An hour and a half is usually what people set aside if they're doing it together. And when I say together, it means that they get onto the like we're talking. You get onto Zoom. You set your plan, and then everybody separates and does their own calling, and then an hour and a half later, you all get back onto Zoom again and talk about the calls that you made. And that's
At what point do you hand out virtual cough drops?
yeah, exactly.
QIO, yeah.
You want to go on to the party part, Michael?
Right. Speaking of virtual fun, there you go.
So the whole point too is to at the end celebrate what you've accomplished. You know, talk about the weird people that you contacted, or the strange, or the nice person,
Amazing
or
people,
the
right?
mean person, or the weird thing that happened, and have an adult beverage nearby so that you're enjoying yourself. You know, a little few snacks, and that we're saying to. Now, when we do this in person, we have a table we have a drink that's called the Blue Tsunami. And you
There
can
it
see
is.
that when we were doing it door to door, there's the Blue Tsunami in the upper left there. And get a little, some snacks. And so we tell people we can't do that together, but you can have a little snack and a little drink, and then we can sit and talk while we're on Zoom. So I feel like that's really important, because that really creates the community that then people want to come back and do it again, because you just had a good time doing it the first time, instead of it having be just a you know, you're just on the call and then nothing ever happens, you know. And you can compare. You could say I reached, you know, 10 people, and someone says, oh, I reached 12 people, you know, that you actually got to talk to, or I left 20 messages or whatever. So we're encouraging that as part of this whole team group.
And I guess maybe just to piggyback on that, I mean, it also is super helpful. You know, I had a person and they asked me this and I didn't know how to answer it, or I said this, or what would you say? Or so it is valuable for everybody to kind of improve their, you know, ability to persuade each other to. So
What
that's
do you tell somebody asks you, are you calling everyone, or are you just calling Democratic voters? What do you answer?
We're calling you because your vote is particularly important. I mean, you can say anything you want, right? I mean, we're calling you because we want to encourage you to vote this year. I mean, I'll get to a point where I'll say, we know you haven't always voted that often in the past, but this year is important. Right?
Important.
Okay.
And you can use the word progressive, you know, that's fine to use. And if you're not comfortable with progressive, you can, let's see, what else could you say?
You can say anything you want as long as
The
Lori doesn't
opposite of
hear you.
conservative.
Environmental?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. But
Absolutely.
here's a little known fact, and that is that environmentalists are low propensity voters.
Ooh,
They
Really?
don't vote. Yes, you guys help get them out there.
Well, that's very interesting, because maybe that's part of the conversation about where can you be most impactful, right?
Yes.
Or where are some of the areas where you can be most impactful? And I did get a pep talk from President Obama earlier today about just that. You know, like the first thing to do is have conversations with everybody you know.
Yep. Absolutely right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a weird factoid that the environmental community doesn't turn out to vote. I mean, that's
Yeah.
strange.
I
I have a question. When you mail this stuff to us, are we, you know, let's say we agree on the precinct that we want to do. Do we all have one sign in? Is that what it is? Or everybody has their own sign
Yeah.
in?
Well, let me say this. You're going to share one phone bank, so you're going to share one link. Each person will log in with their own email, so you can
Okay,
see
got
that
it.
Michael made 6 calls and Lori made 37 calls. But the actual phone bank itself, that link will share a common password,
Okay.
right?
Okay, so one
Right.
password for
So this
the
is our
link.
phone, yeah,
Okay.
right. This is our this is our phone bank for, for your group. And in fact, because we have different groups doing different phone banks, yeah, they each have, I will log into different phone banks with different passwords, right? Because it goes to the phone bank. That's what I'm trying to say.
Anything else? Anybody else have questions? Okay.
That's it.
So I guess our big question for you is, would you rather go, like, should we send you a link from Broward? Should we send you a link from another county? Or would you rather just call, like I said, somebody within a certain age range or a certain region? I mean, help us to know
what is needed the most?
Well,
All
you
those
know,
good votes. I
I'll
mean,
tell you- yeah, go ahead.
there are more than enough people to call. So it really just is, we'd like to help you focus on whatever makes the most sense to you. So we can give you a precinct in Broward County. We can give you,
I want left-handed Croatians with 4 toes.
well, we can only select them based on the way their voter registration information exists. So unless they put that on there. something.
Broward County makes the most sense in case people ask us, where do you live, you know?
Yeah,
so-
yeah. What do you guys think about, I just looked at the list. Maybe you want to put the list back up again and we'll take a look real quick
Yeah,
and
let me
see
go
if,
back to the list.
we'll do George and Stephanie and I'll do a little brainstorming here for a second. We can look at that and then maybe we can make a decision today. I mean, I expect Scott Maisel, who's not on this call, to join us. And Lori, I think you said Dylan Bober has been through this training, and
Yep.
I would
He has a
invite
precinct. He's
him.
on
And
the list. Scott, he has a precinct.
Yep.
yeah, he's got his own precinct already.
He's
Okay,
on the
well,
list, yeah.
He needs
Okay.
some friends though. I think the last time we talked to him,
okay.
these are hard people to call.
But we'll try to recruit for some other folks in our Tikkun Olam committee and some other folks at the temple to join
Okay.
us. So
There was something I was going to say. 1 second.
So the basic commitment is about 2 hours, one time,
Yeah,
No,
unless you want to do it again.
right.
at a sitting. At a
We're
sitting.
asking your organization to make a commitment to a precinct, not to
Right.
go one time.
But the individuals doing it don't have to sign their lives away for the rest of the summer.
Correct.
It's
It's
small
up to you.
small segments of time for any one person.
Yeah.
right.
Which is a great
That's
selling
what
point.
we suggest. That's what
Um,
we suggest.
So do you have that list, Michael?
Oh, yeah, I thought I was sharing my screen, sorry.
Not yet.
I was sitting here staring at it.
So, there was something that I was going to say about. So here's our feeling about this: that to win the country, Florida needs to shift out of the conservative zone, and to win Florida, Broward needs to have high voter turnout because we have the majority of progressive voters in our county, and we have one of the biggest, I think it's the second largest county in the state. So if we can turn out a large number of progressive voters, we'll win the state.
I'm looking at the unadopted precincts
Mhm.
and I'm looking at where they are
Mhm.
and I'm kind of mentally extrapolating about why they haven't been adopted.
And I'm curious, I live in Dania Beach and it's not even on there.
Coconut
Well, that
Creek,
doesn't mean that there aren't good or unreliable voters in Dania Beach. This was really sort of the top 50 with the most.
I see, well, Sunderland.
Coconut Creek,
Find them anywhere.
Tamarack, Weston, Miramar.
So is
And
there
what do
any
you guys
place
like?
you feel you need us the most?
There's Coral Springs, Miramar is big.
Yeah, how about Miramar, guys? What do you think?
Anything
There's
is fine with me,
there's
Scott.
4 Miramars that are open.
Yeah, how about what's the second one? Is that 130? Is the second one?
What's the problem with Weston?
Nothing.
No.
Just
There's no
nobody,
problem.
There's a lot of
adopted it
people
yet.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe.
All right.
We
People
just
haven't
need more
adopted.
friends to adopt more precincts, that's all.
So what do you guys think?
That sounds good. That sounds fine to me. I don't really care, whatever.
How about the second one in Miramar there? This is a little bit lower
17.
number.
Okay, 17.
Yeah,
W.
17,
Third.
whatever that is.
All right, we'll make you a phone bank list.
Okay. And we'll call that the Tikkun Olam group phone
Okay.
bank or something.
You know what, Scott? I'm wondering if we should call it the SLR group.
Yeah, maybe we
I'm
should.
just a
Okay,
little
we're a
concerned about
501c3.
501c3 thing, yeah.
We'll call it the Sea Level Rise.
Okay. Okay.
And then so we won't drown out people, so to speak.
Excellent.
Okay.
Sea Level Rise Solutions Group is our official name.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All
Awesome.
right, fantastic.
Thank you, Todd. This is
Okay,
really
so
good.
I'm gonna stop the recording now. Let me see, I guess I'll push the red button here.
What I don't understand is Lori and Michael, how